I've never come across a sex toy that can reciprocate a mouth.
Right, but what it's gonna be able to do, again, unique skill set.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
It's going to be able.
I'm not giving up those mouths.
No,
it's going to be able to trick the brain.
Welcome to Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. Here's your host, Marcus.
Welcome to another episode of Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. And we teased this episode last week. Here it is. We are going to have a good show today. I've got a full house. We've got Amy.
Hi.
Angie.
Hello.
My assistant, Taylor.
Hi.
And our very special guest today is the host of a podcast called The Great Love Debate, and it is the #1 relationship dating podcast in the world. So welcome, Brian Howie.
Hi, how are you? Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Glad
This
to
is a
have
full
you.
house.
Yeah.
So Brian is, I think he's one of the owners of our studio, and we see him occasionally.
Day job.
Yeah. We get in lots of spirited discussions.
We do.
We've actually been on your show.
You have been on my show, and it was very highly rated.
Yeah.
Very popular. A lot of people had a lot of questions for you guys.
Well, you're going to have to get into some of those questions because we do get a lot of feedback and a lot of in the mailbag.
Mm-hmm.
But it's from people that are kind of following our lifestyle,
Right.
the sugar dating lifestyle. But you deal more in traditional dating?
You could, but, there's...
What is
we deal in
traditional
relation?
dating, right?
Everything is a relationship. So the Great Love Debate started as a live touring, and it still is, a live touring town hall style debate about love dating relationships in each city. We have been 118 cities around the world. We've been to 11 countries. And what we try to do at these shows is to try and solve the disconnect between the men and the women in that particular city. No matter where we go, it always comes down to the women want the men to try harder and the men want the women to make it easier. Mm-hmm. And that is the crux of the disconnect here.
So do you find, which Amy believes wholeheartedly, that dating is different in geographical locations?
Unquestionably. And that's part of what makes the Great Love Debate interesting. Every year we put out top 10 lists of the best and worst cities, and we've gone to all sorts of places. We've been to Sydney and Shanghai and Tel Aviv, and we've done live shows literally all over the world. And we're trying to figure out what is unique about that makes it harder, easier, better, worse. So, yeah, can you find possibilities in every single city? Yeah. Are there some places that it is just going to make it harder to find what you want? Yes. For example, I will do our live show in a place like New York, where you have a lot of ballsy men with big personalities. And I walk around the crowd and I have a microphone, and the men in the crowd think, if I get the microphone, I'm going to get laid tonight. When I do a show in Seattle, where there's a lot of, introverted, socially awkward men, they think if I get the microphone, I'm going to get laughed at tonight. And the women can pick up on that sort of balance of masculine and feminine energy, and it really does trickle down to the dating culture. Maybe you're going to get more assholes in Philadelphia, but you're at least going to get some guys who are going to go for it. Mm-hmm. You're not getting that in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So do you think that...
I like the introvert. So I'm like...
But you will have to pull it. You'll be like, come on, and not scare them off. It's it's a little bit more work for you. Another thing I always say is that the women look for red flags and the men look for green lights. And I don't think the men are getting nearly as many green lights, or they're not as overt as they used to be, because the women have, to their credit, ramped up their independent, I don't need a man, masculine energy. And if anything, over the last 20 years, the men have become bigger pussies. We did the work. We got a little softer. We got a little more curious, and you got mad.
We got mad.
You're like, where's your balls, dudes? And that is different in different parts of the world.
I don't know. I like it though. I don't want I guess I deal with masculine men all day and every day who are just like macho, and
so the sensitive dude is
more along my style.
Because it's more exotic to you.
It is, yeah.
The only place we've been that seemed normal, shockingly, where you saw like men and women on dates all over the place. Right. Like here you see groups of guys and groups of girls, and occasionally somebody will get drunk enough to cross the room.
Yeah.
It's like a prom. It looks like
a grade dance.
It looks like a 7th grade dance. Like somebody's going to go across. That's what you see here until 11 o'clock at night when somebody's drunk enough, and then you see the two groups merge.
I would agree with that.
The only place that I've been that I've seen, at most times men and women together on dates was Shanghai, was China.
Really?
And I had to figure out why that was. And we did figure out why that was. So first of all, they have no Facebook. Oh. They have no Tinder, and they have no porn. So if you want to see some booby, you have to feed her. Mm-hmm. You have to date her like you used to have to do everywhere else. And that is what's really ruined a lot of dating in a lot of places, is this sort of. Dr. Drew did the Great Love Debate. You guys know who Dr. Drew is?
Yes.
He did our show a couple times. And he believes, and he's right, that the coming storm, which may be here already, is that the kid who's 14 years old now, by the time he's in high school, he's going to be able to put on a helmet, find either literally a picture of Amy or Ariana Grande or wherever his girl is, turn it into an avatar of her. It's going to call him by his name and give him a reasonably satisfying sexual experience. That guy's never going to ask anybody out.
The metaverse is coming.
It's coming in the dating. And so he's not going to get his heart broken. You're going to say, oh, it's not as good. He doesn't know it's not as good because he never had anything else. This combo of PlayStation and porn is merging in a way that the future of the human race, that's where it's going bad.
Well, and we've talked about this. I've done VR porn, not performed
and
in
it's
it. I've watched it.
It's hot.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There's no watch
feelings.
Traditional porn.
Really?
So it's literally, it's now you can do these sort of deep fake celebrities, but now he's going to be able to find the hottest girl in his freshman English class, take a picture of her, get a picture off the internet, and he's going to be able to hit a couple buttons, and she's going to
it's crazy.
And he's going to be her hero in this metaverse. Why would he ask a girl out?
Yeah.
And that's and so this, barrier to approach each other because these gender roles have gotten blurred. We're afraid to approach you in real life anymore. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I don't need to approach anybody. And that's the worry.
That may happen, but I think it's going to be a fringe. I don't think it's going to be a majority of men.
I disagree.
That's because you're not 14 now.
Look at the
and
porn
you dealt
industry.
with you grew up in a world where you could hit on a girl, you could compliment a girl. Mm-hmm. Now, if he compliments her, he might
Amy's
get fired.
wheels are so turning right now.
Yeah, she's like, I like that. It's sort of like a lot of live entertainment, even strip joints or whatever. The women are like, fuck it, I'm just going to be OnlyFans and make more money and I don't have to deal with anybody. Mm-hmm. We've really we're becoming, go into our own bubble to find our satisfaction, and that has trickled down to dating. So
how do you deal with the physical contact then when it comes to VR? Wouldn't that be something?
It's going to vibrate or it's going to scratch and sniff, whatever it is. It's going to become more realistic.
They're making sex toys that link up with the VR porn.
Have you ever done any virtual reality thing? I did what's the Disneyland?
No, but her
thing?
eyes lit up.
What's the Disneyland thing? The soaring over California. Ever go to that thing and you put on a helmet and it basically takes you on a tour? Mm-hmm. I'm afraid of heights. I was terrified.
Yeah,
it was so real to me that I felt like I was 1,000 feet in the air. I'm sure sexually you could probably get it to 80% of what it is. And again, the kid doesn't know.
It's mouth good. Though you can't. I've never come across a sex toy that can replicate a mouth.
Right, but what it's gonna be able to do, again, unique skill set. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
It's going to be able.
I'm not giving up those mouths.
No,
it's going to be able to trick the brain in a way, and knows exactly the senses to stimulate that will replicate it to a good enough degree that the guy's like. First of all, he's never had a blowjob. This kid who's putting the helmet on, he doesn't know what he's missing. Yeah. And if he is, he's not getting you guys. Okay. So he's just like, this. I'm not going to even go out. I can sit here all day long and dial up every famous woman and have her tell me I'm amazing and my buzzer is going to buzz or whatever it is. That's what's coming, and that's the worry.
Well, and with VR porn, it almost activates a different part of your brain.
Yeah. So
it's almost mentally more intense than actually sometimes being physically with someone. There's this, it sounds crazy, but there's this safety net of, it's not reality. So you can just do or feel whatever you want. But yet it is real.
It is.
I don't know though. So even when, so if I try to use a toy, I get more scared. I'm less comfortable in that setting than I am with an actual person.
But we're talking about people who haven't really had much sexual experience.
Or growing up and growing up in a
Yeah.
different way. It's a different world where there's this blurring of gender roles and it's all these kind of things. And so, we're used to doing these live Great Love Debate shows with hundreds of people in a room, and just the act of getting people in a room and sharing whatever goes a long, long way in breaking down the walls. With the last 2 years, so prior to the last 2 years, so pre-pandemic, I'm going to give you the upside of the dating scene now.
Okay.
2 really important things happened in the last 5 years that has affected dating. One is Me Too. So Me Too basically took a ton of opportunities out of the workplace. That's where people met. That's where people went out to happy hour. That's where people spent a lot of their time in the traditional office workplace. And that's where most of your opportunities would come. Dating the girl in the office, or being around a scenario where you did it. Now that got taken away. Immediately following that, the lockdown happened. Now, right before the lockdown, a lot of, especially women, were like, you know what? I can have a good Friday night with a Lifetime movie and my dog and my wine, and I don't want to go out anymore. I'd be better off by myself. And so the last 2 years I've taught people is it's not better by ourselves. We do miss people. We do miss contact. We do miss being around other. So Me Too got rid of some of the women who were like, yeah, men are assholes, fuck them, and they dropped out of the dating pool. And a lot of the men who are like, it's just too hard, I can't handle this, they dropped out of the dating pool. The people who've come back out now and realize they miss each other and they're curious and they want to do better, it is maybe a leaner cut of daters out there, but the people that are out there now are like, you know what, I like this and I want to figure out how to make it work. So
I need to get on that train.
Yeah, so it's a lot of people who are just like frustrated and fed up. They're now kind of have a second look at it, like, you know what, the good parts of dating are awesome.
It changed it for me.
Did it? Yeah.
I think that was, definitely the last year, especially, was when I really started craving more interpersonal interaction and actually considering what I consider a normal relationship, not normal by most people's standards. But
it's become so unnatural to approach each other. Again, everybody's got their guard up. We had a woman came to our show in Chicago, and she said that she had shared an Uber pool with a guy. Do you have an Uber pool here?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She found him interesting. She couldn't wait to get home to find him online to say hello, like formally. Like rather than turn her head right, she needed to swipe right because she felt it was more natural to have the protection of the device because it seems too scary now because we just don't do it as much. Like just going up to Whole Foods now and saying hi to somebody seems crazy.
Yeah.
But we grew up, you had to do that. You had to get your back in the 1950s, these guys had to walk across the room and ask her to dance.
Yeah, and the fear of rejection was so overwhelming for people like me.
Yeah.
And many of my friends that we would just stand there and never dance with anybody.
Yeah, the men are afraid of being rejected and the women are afraid of being hurt. And this has led to us like, another person is not going to be good for me. And a lot of men, I'm always surprised, they're like, everybody's going to see me get rejected. And I'm like, nobody's paying attention to you. Nobody cares.
Do you think, so I have a question that is a little bit off the topic though, but I think like our generations too, we are really the first generations that didn't have that maybe ideal home situation. The mom and the dad that stayed together, we didn't have good examples of dating. We didn't necessarily we had a very different upbringing in terms of what dating and relationships looked like as well.
Well, that can go one of two ways. My parents have been together 52 years. I don't even think they like each other. So I was always like, and people ask me, how come you've never been married? I'm like, because the example that I saw, I was like, that doesn't seem better.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yep.
It can work both ways, both sides of it. A lot of people would rather be in a bad relationship than be in no relationship. And that, people look at it like a game of musical chairs. And it's like, I better get a seat because I don't want to be alone, which leads them to waste lots of years and emotions and resources on the wrong person versus, on to the next.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Which is one of the things when you guys came on my podcast, what you did a really good job of, and you do on this show, is it's not that different in terms of communicating wants and needs and balances and boundaries and all the things that are actually pretty healthy in traditional relationships too that we fail to do. It's expectations. There's, having my needs met and what I want to get out of this. And we're just so bad at communicating.
Right.
We have more ways to communicate than ever, and we've gotten worse at it.
I agree.
With
that. But like, I'm in an open relationship.
What does that mean?
His face.
Well, I always say,
who is this face?
Well, I always say if you
made?
have 2 girlfriends, it's because you don't have one.
Okay. So I'm in a relationship.
Right.
And we actively enjoy seeing other people.
I get that. But if you had one awesome one.
No.
I know. That's always the answer. I'm always on the side of that. I've heard it both ways. And it's like one person couldn't possibly fulfill the basket of needs that I have.
I don't think it's that for me, though.
What is it?
So in this relationship that I'm in, number one, I like that it's open because it is the most authentic, honest relationship I've ever been in. We communicate brilliantly about everything. It's amazing.
But is it the most fulfilling relationship you've ever been in?
Easily.
Okay.
Easily the most fulfilling.
Well,
And
with which of the relation, you, and it's fulfilling because you got a lot of other hands in the pot, so to speak?
no, I mean, it's not really so much the sexual aspect of it. It's actually that we connect so well emotionally and like psychologically because we're able to share all these parts of ourselves and be very open and honest about it. And it kind of creates like a emotional mental hierarchy that wouldn't exist in a traditional relationship.
And I agree with that. And you talk about some of the places we go where certain lifestyles are definitely more mainstream, more Portland's a big pile of polyamory. So is Austin.
Utah.
So is Austin. Yeah, Austin.
Utah's
You go to
huge.
some repressed sort of corners of Connecticut. They're all secretly swinging and stuff, but
Yeah.
they're living a lie. A lot of communities now, it's like, this is my boyfriend, and this is my boyfriend's boyfriend, and this is my wife's boyfriend, and it's a lot more accepted and out there, and allows people to push the envelope and take whatever they want and need out from
No, I don't
secrecy.
necessarily believe in polyamory, like falling in love with more than one person. It's just open from a sexual aspect. When it comes to like our emotions and how we respect one another emotionally.
Right, but that's what I ask these two
Yeah.
all the time.
Tell
What
me.
happens when you like them?
I do like him though.
I know,
lot.
but then
So-
it's a regular relationship.
Yes. So I'm actually been contemplating exactly what you're talking about for like the past week or so. After, kind of just being away from everything and getting sick, I've been wondering what would a fulfilling relation like with one person, what would that look like?
See, and when we found you roaming the streets,
You're probably
you were like no.
No,
It's
yeah.
you went so in a not that long a time. You went from I've tried it, I'm not interested. That would never happen. Wasn't she was very firm? That's
yeah,
never happening.
yeah.
And then you saw a crack in the wall, and you're like, well, maybe. And then you like watched a
well, I
rom-com,
would
and you started
say-
to cry,
Oh,
and you're like,
No, I think for me, it just was, I'm not sure what changed. I really don't know what changed. I think it was just a matter of, I don't know, like, I guess you and I were probably talking about it, and I just got to thinking about it more, and I was like, well, what would that look like? Like, I haven't had it in so long. What would it actually look like, and why? But it's very similar to what men think. I've been told many times that I'm a man in a woman's body. I think like a man. And I am very afraid of rejection. I've been rejected and hurt so many times that I've put up this wall, this alternative identity to protect myself. And that is that I am polyamorous. I am like non-monogamous.
Do not put me in a box.
Do not put me in a
we
box.
talked
Like,
about
don't
that.
do
Well,
any of that because
So the flip side of what I just said is people would rather
Yeah.
is a lot of people say I'd rather be alone than be in a bad relationship. And they look at those as the only two possible
Options.
choices, and being in a good relationship is so remote that it doesn't come up. Because if you gave people the option of and they could trust it, good relationship, no
Trust.
relationship, or bad relationship, they would all trust one good relationship, but either they don't believe it exists or they don't see a path to get there.
Yeah.
And so they rule it out. And so they're like, I'm not going to find this, or I'm going to get hurt, or I'm going to get rejected. So let me find something that is fulfilling on some of the same levels and then also some
Yeah.
different levels and see how long that goes. But I believe we all are fundamentally wired to want and be in that happy, loving, sharing, trusting, honest, freaky relationship.
Yeah.
That you can sometimes share with others.
Yes, sometimes you can. And again, if the communication's good and honesty is good,
Right.
you know, we all say what we look for in a relationship. I think, you know, people have these lists of I need this, and I always say it comes down to three things. And I think that the women need the same three things, and I think the men need the same three things. And I think the women want to feel special, and I think they want to feel sexy, and I think they want to feel safe.
We
And
want to
safe
feel
is the
wanted.
safe. Well, that's about sex. That's a subset, and so everything you think of is either sort of a tangential to that.
Okay.
Safe is the tough one because that is about the trust and sharing and vulnerability and honesty that doesn't come as easily to men. And I think the men want to feel admired or respected.
Right.
I think we want to feel appreciated. And the tough one on the men's side is I think we want to feel needed. And you don't need us as much collectively as you used to. So for a year, because you can fix your own shit and you can get your own ride and you could do this.
Yeah.
So for years, us men, we were essentially shooting at a 10-foot basket to get into your world to use
So
a
this
basketball.
is just
Now
all
we're shooting
social
at
conditioning.
it is. So now we're shooting at a 12-foot basket because you don't need us as much, so the bullseye is higher.
Right.
So it's harder for us to figure out a way, how do I fit in your world that's going to make your world better?
Interesting.
Give me money.
Right. So most women are like, give me money, give me sex, and kill my spiders.
Yeah,
Those are really the things.
exactly.
And the men are like, we'll sign up for that. But the women, the girl-on-girl crime, you guys are telling, a lot of the women are telling us, you can't say that out loud. You need to say that I don't need this and I can do this and I want to. This ramping up of the independent woman has led to a down. You know, I believe it's made women less happy.
I see that. When I was in the church, one of the books that the church would read that was really popular in regards to relationship was called Love and Respect. And it kind of has that backbone to it of what you're saying, how men really want to be respected.
Yeah.
They want to feel like the dragon slayer.
You know, I know you can get your own thing off the shelf. Let me get that. Let me get the car door. And a lot of times the women are like, if you open the younger women, you open the door and they're like, you think I'm weak? You think I do
really?
this?
Oh,
And that is
no,
They
please
do
open my door.
right. So there's a generation of, you go to certain places, again, San Francisco, where it's like uber feminist women.
Really?
We can't pay. We can't open the door. And the men's like, what am I supposed to do here? You know, and it's a real challenge for guys. So then
It's
again,
the roles are reversing, right?
this
And
blurring
so
of traditional gender roles for people who grew up in a certain way. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? I can't tell you you're good looking anymore. I can't compliment you anymore.
Yeah.
And so the men are like, what am I supposed to do? So I'm going to go to video games because I can win at video games.
I see that. I see that in my 20-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if men look at her, she'll call them out.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
not by her generation. It's not accepted by them. It's why, or if someone looks at me, she will she'll turn around and she'll say, "Why are you staring at my mom's ass?"
And if
Like,
it's
they're
because your mom's
not-
got a nice ass.
Right. And I'm like, well, let me have my own offense. Don't take it on for me but her generation,
It's different.
it's very different.
Yeah. And I think it has, because I get so many women who are professional women and they're lawyers and they're investment bankers and they're like secretly like, oh my God, I would love to just stay home and raise the kids and do all that.
Yes.
And I'm not allowed to
Yeah.
say that out loud because
Yeah.
the other women will shame me.
Yeah.
And they'll say like, you're hurting the cause. And
Yeah.
it's the dirty little secret that a lot of women really liked being a girl.
It is
Yeah,
really
it's
hard
true.
raising two older daughters right now because sometimes I stop and I almost feel bad for them because I'm like, just take a breath, like enjoy a little bit of intention or
Yeah.
let someone help you. But they're very, very adamantly
People on
independent.
dating profiles now like have their preferred pronouns. And I'm like, I know that you're a she or her. That's why you're here.
Really?
Yeah, they do, right? You've seen that, right?
I look at those, especially on the swiping sites.
And you're right.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not dating those.
yeah, she, her, like,
And they-
I'm like,
okay.
no shit.
Yeah, right.
Really?
Thanks for the obvious.
Yeah, I want a dating site or a thing where you put on your preferred compliments. Like, I want to be called hot and pretty. I like
would be
those are my.
great.
That would make so
Yeah.
much easier.
It really would. Yeah.
You know.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
it is. it's confusing out there, but I think it is hopeful. I think, like I said earlier, people are really missing the face-to-face and the nervous energy that comes along with meeting somebody or approaching somebody.
Butterflies.
I think that's a good. Amy misses the butterflies.
I do.
You know, like, it tingled again. I like it.
I feel something. Oh my God.
You know. So yeah, when you came on my podcast, I got more comments and feedback because people went to listen thinking they were going to roll their eyes or thinking they were going to judge, and they're like, you know what? They made a lot of good points about what they need and where they were in their lives, and it totally made sense. And I heard that overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
So what he's referring to is Amy and I did an episode on the Great Love Debate, and I think it's titled something about sugar daddy relationship.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So if you want to listen to that, you can go find that on Apple or Spotify or wherever you find your podcast. Since you've been in this niche for a while, and you've interviewed and done podcasts with people from all over the world, what are your thoughts of this alternative form of dating called sugar dating?
I think it's all sugar dating. It's just how honest we are about it. Because trust me, if I'm not buying her shit, she's probably not dating me anyway. You know, it's about we all have our forms of compensation and reward and feedback and needs and all that. It is still fundamentally the same. I think emotions do get involved in all of it and whatever, but it's about being able to communicate what is it that I want from another person. And I think it's, eventually, I think people are going to want to go back to a more traditional thing just because I think that's how we're wired. But I think it's a positive transition phase. I don't hope that's not offensive to anybody, or to explore something different than just continuously bang your head against the wall. And, half the people in where we're recording this, just trying to get free drinks. So you might as well up the ante a little bit.
I mean, I think life in general is like that, though. Everything's a pendulum, right? It kind of swings to one extreme and then to another, and somewhere in between you find your balance, maybe.
I always thought the girls in LA had a pretty. My whole interest in the love dating space came from, I was a writer, director, producer in Los Angeles for a long, long time. I worked with a lot of actresses and they would always have trouble dating, and I'm like, it's kind of the way you communicate, or it's tough to date an actress because they're always pretending to be somebody else in the first place. But what I did notice is a lot of women had this system back in the day. This is before Uber, because now nobody drives. Back in the day, a lot of women would go out at night with no money. They would get free drinks all night, and then they would ask every guy in there, like, oh my God, do you have any tip money for the Uber? For the valet? Yeah, $5 for I want to tip the valet. And they would just walk around the room and get 5, 10, 20. And the guys would be like, sure, tip money. Huh. They would not only drink free, they'd leave with $400 every night. Nice. And that was a good job. And nobody was getting hurt. So they weren't really taking advantage. It was just like 5, 10, 20. Like, I need money for the valet was a perfectly normal thing to say. And so guys like, sure, here. And they would just go out, work the room for that, and go home with $400. I'm like, that's a good gig.
That's
a lot of women do that.
Yeah.
You're giving my co-host all kinds of crazy ideas.
Well, not that many people drive anymore, so that's taken out. That's changed dating in New York City. Do you spend any time in New York back in the day?
No,
never.
Much. I've done the tourist thing, but that's about it.
The only goal when you dated in New York, because New York was open all night, so you wanted to keep the date going, trying not to hear the words, 2 stops, please, to the cab driver. Because when you heard 2 stops, please, you knew it was over.
Really?
Yeah. And so when she said you wanted to go long enough, so it's like, you want to go to my place or your place? Because if you heard the 2 stops, please, it was like, shit. Uber's changed that because now each person gets their own. So there's no hailing of a cab really anymore.
Wait, there's the Uber share though.
You can't pick who you're sharing with.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have that awkward conversation, like, you want me to get us an Uber? But before, it's like you get a cab, you'd make out, and then you'd hope she would not say 2 stops, please.
Aww,
So it's changed a little bit,
Yeah.
Technology is good and it's bad, and it's whatever. I used to, our tagline used to be "Get your head out of your apps," and meet people face to face. But using technology to create opportunities and possibilities does have value. And it does, and as long as that's not your whole life, as long as you just, like, every time you leave your house, you have these blinders on and you're like, I cannot communicate with people, you kind of got to mix your online and your offline to sort of find what you want and what you're looking for.
Practice with your waitresses. That's what I do.
I tell women, if you've been in a long relationship and you're just not used to communicating with men, go to Home Depot and just start asking questions. The men all want to help you. Like there's a lot of people, and you feel again this masculine energy. People like, and the men go to Bed Bath and Beyond and just grab towels and be like, "Do these match?" or whatever, and just get used to talking to each other again. You know, I have this theory that you can go up to any woman anywhere and ask her a question where, if you were married, that question is not one that your wife would get mad at you. So if you're up in Starbucks and you go up to someone and be like, "Hey, are they still serving the pumpkin spice latte here?" Your wife's not going to get mad at you. Right. They have the caramel. If you were like, "Hey, what size are those jeans?" Your wife's going to get mad at you. Right. And I think just asking questions and getting answers, basic face-to-face communication, really gets us relaxed again. You know?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Are either one of you on? Because I don't do online dating. Like I'm not on any dating apps. Are either one of you guys on like more traditional?
Oh yeah,
dating apps.
I still swipe through, and I'll get matches. Matter of fact, I had one lady on Bumble last week intentionally matched with me so she could tell me how bad she hated my profile.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because she was in her profile, it said she was a liberal, and obviously I'm conservative, so I'm going to structure it differently, and she didn't like that.
You just triggered her.
Oh, I triggered her big time. So I gave her a reference to our website, secretsofasugardaddy.com, and she blocked me.
I was never really on there because this is going to sound like a real asshole thing to say. I think I know how to manipulate it.
Asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I just think because I know I've heard what they want so many times because of my job. I'm like, I think I would know exactly what to say.
I'm not going to say what my ability is, but
I've never,
you know, I'm just like, I do know the secret sauce, and that would have been bad.
But so I've never really been on dating sites online other than SA, of course. That's the only thing that I've been on.
So you skipped right to SA?
I did.
Wow, most people
I was
do the
married
traditional first.
a very long time.
Oh, well, welcome back.
Hi. And yeah, I kind of skipped it. And I get really bored very easily with online communication.
The goal is what people do. They turn it into pen pals. You got to move it off quickly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
3 back and forths.
I try to meet for a drink as soon as possible, so we're not wasting time.
Both of you should just be like, "I'll tell you when I see you."
Yeah,
and that tells the other person, "I want to see you."
I know. We need to take some. You need to catch us after the show and give us. Well,
yeah, I think that's what it is.
We're doing that right now.
Somebody is like waiting for the other person to say it. So you go back and forth a couple times and like, let's talk about that in person. Mm-hmm. And then you're both telling each other that let's do this. You know? Do you meet women for a coffee?
I meet fairly quickly, and I do not get into long discussions because I want it to be more authentic
But when you meet for the first time, is it a like in
coffee or a drink or?
There's a big difference in coffee and drink. The coffee feels like a business thing.
Well, it depends on what time of day it is. And actually, I always suggest drinks, and then sometimes they'll say, "Well, how about we do a coffee at whatever."
When they ask to do a coffee,
that's you.
Here's what you do instead of coffee. You want the same price point and the same time restriction? Go get ice cream. Okay,
we're getting the tea now.
If you like each other, you're already licking in front of each other. And if you don't like each other, at least you had ice cream.
Yes.
Or go get gelato. Like at least you got something out of this 15 minutes.
The worst thing though, that right there would be
for you because you have allegedly licking skills.
But she loves licking.
No, but
she loves licking.
She loves licking.
So, okay, my sister just called me last night and she was like, "You know what, Amy?" She was like, "I know that," she's like, "I've heard you talk about this before." And she's like, "One thing that really bothers me is the way that a man eats." So like,
but wouldn't you rather find that out early?
I mean, yeah.
If he's sloppy with his licking, I would want to know.
Or what if he licks that ice cream cone like you've never seen anything be licked before?
Oh my goodness!
All right, you guys.
I think you could find out a lot. You find out what they order. You see a little more personality.
I want to get a frozen banana, shove that sucker down their throat.
That's what you're.
There's the Amy we love.
80. I always say that 80% of first dates are either dinner, they are drinks, or they are coffee. Mm-hmm. And those are all fine dates, but they're essentially interview style dates. And to take it a step further, they're essentially prison visitation interview
So
style dates. You're sitting there with a metaphorical piece of glass interrogating each other.
Yeah, so you
True.
you do or do not like 20 questions?
20 questions?
Like, I feel like sometimes I've noticed that if I go on a real date, like on a regular date, I end up noticing I'll start playing 20 questions with them. And I subconsciously in doing this, right? I'm just trying to get to know them like as quickly, right? Whereas
do you want a good question to ask a girl on a date?
a guy, sure.
No, a guy that a girl? You want to see a dessert menu? If she says no, we're probably not going to go out after that.
Oh.
Like, you want to see a dessert menu?
Most girls
I will
do
say
not
no.
eat dessert.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to see a
sweets
menu
girl.
and they want a bite. They want one bite of something. I want to know that. I want to. There's questions that you can ask that are going to show far more personality than where did you grow up, or where are you from? Because they're trying to assess what you are before they find out who you are. You know, a lot of people are like, don't ask somebody what they do for a living, and I think that's a mistake. It's not about necessarily the money. Not you guys. The money matters, but what you're basically asking is how do you spend 60 hours of your time each week?
You're
Yeah, I wanna know that.
contradicting what you said earlier,
What?
though, which was that it does matter. You were like, women want to have money.
Oh, I
spent
know,
on
but
them.
how? I'm not saying it's bank, but that doesn't necessarily determine if they're going to spend money on you. But I want to know what you do with your time and if you like it, because you can make a lot of money and you hate your fucking job. That trickles into the relationship. You know, you want to find out what they're passionate about and what they're curious about, and those kinds of things. If somebody's like, oh my God, I'm a lawyer and I'm in court every day, I fucking hate it. I don't want to date that guy. I don't want to date that girl who's like that because they seem like a drag. So you'll know pretty early on if they have cash and if they're generous with their cash, no matter what they do.
Yeah.
You could have a really good job and you could have a gambling problem and have no money. So, you know, you better like them.
Well, yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
but that's, I don't know. I guess it's different. Like
It was different. Now you're back. Now you're back in the
I
fold.
don't. Well, I don't
The wayward
know.
child has come back.
I don't know what's going
No,
on.
promise
with
me, it's a phase.
You're like, what is
It's a
this?
very
What are these
short-term phase.
feelings I have?
yeah. I'm not sure.
When's the last time you cried over a guy?
The last time I cried over.
Yours, plural?
No, I think cried. Ugh.
I don't.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
you
not
do
sure.
You're gonna think of me next time you cry. You're like, this is what he's talking about.
You guys, okay, so I was thinking about this, right? So I got to thinking about like my very, very first guy that I actually, my very first boyfriend back in 3rd grade, I thought about why I dated him, and I dated him because everyone else wanted him. Every guy that I have ever dated, I've only dated them because everyone else has wanted them. I've never dated a guy because I like them.
A lot of
Wow.
yeah, a lot of women do that. I had a longtime girlfriend, and she didn't pay any attention to me until one day she saw like her roommate talking to me, and she's like, "Wait, that's the guy who likes me." And then suddenly I was more appealing. Yeah, there's a lot of
What
that.
is that?
I
what
think-
is wrong with me? Like
I know.
Well-
Competitive jealousy, that's like a secondary emotion that drives from somewhere. It's like, now I'm not afraid of it because they made me feel a certain way. I don't know. A lot of our dating patterns are formed in 3rd grade.
Do you think it's more like maybe primal than that though? I mean, there is little to be said about like the man of the tribe that everybody wants. He's the strongest and the most virile and the most, you know.
Well, do you know why quarterbacks are disproportionately good looking? You ever notice that? That if you look at the 32 NFL quarterbacks, like a lot of them are good looking dudes. Because when they were kids, the good looking kid was the popular one, and the popular one got the ball. And so he became the quarterback. It was just like a natural thing of that popularity led to him being in the leadership position. And that trickles down. It's just a weird.
So I
the
guess,
alpha
but-
things is formed early.
Okay, all right. So that's what it was. I mean, I was just thinking about it because I was like, I've never really been attracted to them. I'm like, actually, I've always been very attracted to very highly intellectual people. Like, I mean, I want them so smart. I love smart, nerdy guys.
Like
I-
our like
Nerdy
last week's
doesn't
guest.
necessarily mean smart.
You what?
Nerdy doesn't always necessarily mean
No,
smart.
but okay, so like I said, highly intellectual. So like when I say nerdy, I like the quirky. I like quirkiness. So that is an attribute. It's not necessarily like I'm defining that as nerdy. It's just like, you know, if you're,
Quirkiness shows personality.
yes, yeah. So I've always been attracted to guys like that. I could get any guy that I've always gotten any guy that I've ever wanted. Like, but it was
Poor thing.
always because
For you.
I know, right?
Wow.
It just, I have charm. Like I can charm the socks off of people.
Noted.
I'm very good at that.
Can you charm the wallet off of them?
Well, I just,
Socks have no value.
yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Actually, she never really even brings up financial.
No, I don't.
Like she doesn't. She avoids that conversation like the plague. Like
Right.
you absolutely hate talking about anything financial. What happens is I think you're very genuine, and then people just open up and want to help you
Yes.
financially, or
and they'll ask me. They'll be like, "Well,
mentor
what can
and
I help?"
everything.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
be like, "What can I help you with?"
Yeah.
And I'll be like, "Well, this is what I kind of need.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to help, that's fine. If not, whatever."
Do you say like school's getting expensive? Is there code
Yeah.
to how to ask? I mean, you've done
So
episodes on this.
so they do. They'll ask me. We'll just get in a conversation and or if I am struggling, I'll say something. I'll be like, "Hey, like this is actually kind of hard for me right now."
Yeah.
You know, with Marcus, like I was working 4 jobs?
Yeah.
4 jobs. I
I met
literally
you,
was
yeah.
maybe sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night.
Yep. And I told you that had to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made sure that she was able to pay her bills and not
Yeah.
absolutely exhaust herself.
And why not? Because in a traditional relationship, you'd be doing the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you
I
would.
mean, so
You don't want to see somebody that you care about on any level going through that and struggling
Yeah.
with
But
that.
what
If you
impressed
have-
me and why I was so willing to do that was seeing the drive that she had and seeing that she was doing the very best that she could at the time. Like she wasn't just sitting there with her hand out going, "Can you
Yeah.
help me?"
I think that's the big thing right now is like girls, I think they're losing sight of their genuine selves. They're expecting, I don't, they have their hands out so much and it's so
do you think women are starting to expect so much without the expectation of returning much?
I don't know.
I mean,
Do you think men are real complicated in what we need? You know, it's the old fuck them and feed them. You know, that
I mean, I'm happy.
we don't mind. Here's the thing. All the women have trouble. You assume we know what you're thinking.
absolutely not. No.
And well,
I know what you're thinking.
I know. Well, all we know is what the last girl liked, and we probably found that out way too late. So I tell these women all the time, like, I think we are fundamentally trainable, and a lot of people get offended at that word, but if you give us a roadmap to your happiness, I think we'll do whatever it takes to jump to get the cheese. The problem is we only hear what we do wrong. We get the smack on the nose way more than the pat on the nose. We just don't. Instead of being like, "Oh my God, you're going to wear that Ben Roethlisberger jersey tonight," if you're like, "You know what, that's cool, but you look so good in a blue suit," and I'm going to do. There's ways to give us positive reinforcement that women often fail to do. We know very clearly when we did something wrong.
Yeah.
We rarely hear when we did something right. And a big part of that is when I first started this out, I used to ask women what they needed or wanted to be happy. And the list of what made you unhappy was right there. It was really accessible. And the list of what made you happy, you hadn't given nearly as much thought to. And so it was a lot harder to communicate to this because all we ever hear is don't, not, that, blah. And we don't get the positive things. So we're just flying blind all the time. You know, it's hard.
Yeah.
So what about you though? What would make you guys happy?
Yeah.
I know that you're like saying fuck them and feed them.
No, I'm not saying that. What I need, people always ask me that, like, what do you look for in a girl? I'm like, that she likes me and she's not afraid to show it. Everything else is kind of negotiable. If she's comfortable and confident expressing how we feel, and I know that's a huge starting point for me, and I can work with a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, I had a long-term arrangement that turned into a relationship, and people kept asking me, "Why are you still with her? Like, she's got all these issues and these problems." And my response was, that girl loves me to death, and I have no doubt like where she stands with me emotionally. Because I was with
it's
That's
verbal,
interesting.
like so. They're
I was
verbally
with another girl,
communicating this?
and she was just like, "Why did you stay with her for so long?" And I said, "I always knew where she was at. You, I don't know. So many times I don't
Yeah.
know where you're at. I always knew what she felt about
I
me.
have the
Because she told me
mentality-
so much.
I guess I have the mentality, this is probably where all my relationships have gone wrong. It's like, if I'm having sex with you, I like you. Like,
See, that's funny. That's funny that you bring that up. That's
Okay.
that's a really good point, and you're right about that. It's smart to say that. Women are always like, oh my God, the guys, they're always making moves on the first date and they're trying to have sex. The sex isn't necessarily all about the sex. It's you think we're gross. Okay. We tell you pretty, we compliment you, and we might get a thank you back. We don't hear anything like that. So we think if she allows us to do stuff, she finds us desirable. It's the positive feedback. So because if the woman said to a guy, if she's not comfortable doing whatever quickly, and she's like, listen, I'm not going to do too much until I get comfortable, but once I get comfortable, it'll blow your mind. He will calm the fuck down because he knows then that she is thinking about possibilities down the road. And we get that. We don't get you're good looking, you're hot, you do this. We just don't get it. So the sex really is the I like you. And the opposite for the men, the women are like, I need to find out if he likes me before I have sex with him. Have sex with him. If he calls you the next day, he likes you.
Yeah.
Okay? You know?
So do you believe in that? Is it okay? So here's one thing that's always bothered me. Okay, so is it a 24? Is it 12, 24, or 48 hour turnaround, or 72?
Or anything.
Like if a guy really does like you, like to call you back the next day. I hate rejection so much.
I think you call when you want to call.
Yeah.
You have sex if you surveyed. This comes up a lot. When you have sex, a lot of women use sex as a reward or a referendum on the relationship. Like, this is how he feels about it. No. And if you surveyed 1,000 happy couples and you said, when did you first have sex? The overwhelming number one answer is the first night. And the number two answer is the second night. And the number three answer is the third night. Doesn't mean if you have sex, it's going to turn anything. It means that these people felt something in a moment. They didn't play games and like, let's see where this can go.
How do you
that.
sort those people though? Because I feel like I just like right now I'm very vulnerable, and it's like my heart is just like aching for.
What's happened to you?
I'm not sure. I don't know. There's like a twinkle in my eye.
Oh, she's back.
This like sentimental like aspect of me is really coming out, and I'm not sure like I'm really not sure what it is. It's something's there. Something's going on internally.
Good.
And
Well, you might be distant enough from whatever wall you put up before, like whatever the trigger or the trauma or the incident or the relationship that caused you to put the blinders on. Either you have some distance from it, or you have some clarity on it, or you processed it in some way that you're not even thinking about that you moved on.
Well, I'm not wondering if it's maybe because I am getting so many hits on my profile, but nobody is taking the time to actually talk to me.
Yeah.
Like really talk to me.
Yeah.
Like they just want to talk about one of two things. And that sucks. Right. And it makes me feel very used.
One of the two things is it sucks.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yes.
So,
But are you putting out there that you want to be talked to?
Yeah.
Yeah, her profile is pretty descriptive, and she does explain it nicely
I
on
feel
what
like
she's
I
looking
did.
for, and
Yeah.
it's pretty deep, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very superficial or anything,
No.
but that's all I'm getting right now. And I'm not sure.
It does get a little bit overwhelming sometimes on the site, because you do start to feel like a sexualized object,
Yeah.
which I mean,
And he
we're
feels
on
like
there.
an ATM.
I mean, I can't, right. I mean, I'm not complaining.
life,
because
you know?
we're on there. So no complaints.
Right.
We're on there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does, from an emotional standpoint though, I mean, you always have to stop and have a little bit of, introspective reflection time and kind of sort out how you're feeling.
You got to look at it like, yes, he wants to have sex with you, but basically he also wants to have sex with you because he also hopes to like you, and he also hopes to like to spend time with you, and he hopes to, I used to say, this is a bad thing to say and women get offended like that. There were times when always back in the day, that I would have sex with somebody and then I'm like, how can I blink my eyes like I Dream of Jeannie and have her turn into an Egg McMuffin instead of being here as like a live person? Like I wish I had the superpower, like as soon as we're done, like doink, give me something else. It's like, why is she still here? And you don't want that.
Right.
You want to go to brunch and you want to hang out and you want to learn about them and you want to be curious about that person.
Or do I though? Because then I get into this thing where they get so clingy and I can't.
You don't mind the right one if they're clingy.
That's true.
So you're only
I've never experienced the right one.
Oh.
though.
day's not
Right.
over. It's like 2:00.
But how many
You'll be fine.
times when we first started this podcast and you're showing me text and messages from guys you've barely met and they're professing their love for you? Absolutely just falling head over heels in love.
Which you like, right? Don't you like on a game level? You want them to love you?
Yeah, but that's too quick.
She wants to want them the way they're wanting her. And I think that's what I hear that she's been lacking. Yes, these men want her, but she wants to desire someone
Well, you've
else
only
like that.
become a fully functional human being again in like the last 4 days.
No, no.
You shut it down. You shut it down for a while.
No, I just got done telling you back in the 3rd grade.
No, I know, but right.
I just got done telling
But you went through a
I
period
don't think-
fairly recently where you're like, I don't have time for emotion.
I don't. But the thing is that
What
that
do you
doesn't mean
think caused that though with you? Was there we don't.
What?
Where do you think that switch kind of flipped with you? Have you ever been in a relationship where you really truly felt like you just loved that person and craved their time?
Even like my ex-fiance, I will tell you that I got engaged because my family put pressure on me to say yes. And they said that he was a good guy. And I was like, yeah, okay, he's a good guy, but what is it about? I could not tell you what it was about him that made me say yes.
So do you feel like you've always been really pragmatic about relationships, intellectualized them more than felt them?
Yeah, I think so. I think I worry that I'm a little bit of a sociopath. Honestly.
Okay. Just be an ethical sociopath.
Yeah, right. So I'm just like, okay, so what is it?
Yeah.
And I love connection and I can connect with people. So I know I'm not a sociopath, right? But it's just when it comes to that, because I'm like, why is it? I mean, even with women. So that's what got me interested in women, is because I was like, well, at one point or another, I thought, okay, I know that I've only dated men because everyone else dates men. So why not try women? I feel the same thing with women. Like there's this such big disconnect for me, and I feel so selfish, you guys. I feel so selfish.
Don't feel selfish.
And
I'm very much like you in terms of relationships. I think that's why I'm operating so well in this open relationship, because it's more of a psychological game than it is this emotionally connected relationship. But I love this psychological game.
But do you want that emotional?
I do. I have no idea what it looks like, how to get it, or
that's a question for him. That's what I'm trying to
Well,
find.
I think I talked about this on my podcast earlier. Like,
give me the damn manual.
I mean, it's not a manual, but the
I don't know
things that
either.
is going to drive a relationship is curiosity and passion. Meaning, I care enough about you, me, and this to continue to learn you and grow and get closer and constantly
But
have
what
that going.
happens when that stops?
Then you find somebody else.
Oh.
Because the goal, I mean, it might have just run its course, but you want somebody who you keep that ping pong ball.
But you're sitting here and you were just talking about how we all have this innate desire to want that one individual.
Right.
But you're
I'm saying that might not be the one.
okay.
Like, you might not, if your passion and curiosity stops after 3 months or 3 years or 10 years, either you changed or they changed or the relationship changed, and it's not necessarily the same thing. You have to, it's hard, it's tough to hit one bullseye. You're basically trying to hit two, and you're trying to move forward and grow and try and be that couple that's still holding hands in 60
I hear
years.
you saying it's impossible.
No,
it's impossible.
I
to
think
find
it's
that.
hard, but it should be. That's
I had
the
a light
payoff.
bulb.
Yeah.
Because what I think I hear you saying is we need to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves to have lifelong relationships unless it is that.
The only
We need
one
to
that
give
works
ourselves
out really is the
permission.
last one. So you're trying to a lot of people, and I don't know how old you were when you got married, or people get married young. I don't even know who I am at 25. I'm supposed to know who you are. So naturally people are going to come to these forks in the road, and you can work through them, and you can communicate who are we and where are we and where we're going. And a lot of people are just so busy. A lot of people go from husband, wife to mom and dad, and that changes. That's a whole different dynamic too. So, the better you know yourself, do the work, go to therapy, whatever, the more likely you are to be able to navigate another human being in your life.
Because we tend to get into relationships and we want to fall in love, but we don't want to consider that I might just love this person for.
And I think you have to
time
define
period,
what
not
love
forever.
means to you, because it's very subjective. And I wrote a book called How to Find Love in 60 Seconds. And people are like, one of the first things the book says is before you find it, you have to define it. What is it? And for me, my definition, which doesn't work for everybody, is that there's nothing I'm doing that I wouldn't rather be doing with her. Doesn't mean I have to do it with her. It means I'd rather do it with her, or at least rather share it with her. And when I feel that, it's very specific to me. And when I think that and feel that, I'm like, I love her. And that's it. And that's what that means. A lot of people put a lot of different qualifiers, because love is a combination of like 10 other things. So the more you can narrow it down, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to find that, at least that feeling or that situation, I think that's at least a little more attainable than just like, I love pizza and I love the Mets, but that is a strange word to use. So, but I always say we're selling hope around here.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but I don't think it should be easy.
Yeah.
That's the payoff.
Yeah.
Well, as expected, I was going to wind this toy up and let it go, and it did.
Sorry about that.
Absolutely my pleasure. Brian, thanks for joining us today. Parting advice for, this is basically the same thing as dating, except we've got a little financial component to it. Give us some advice for men who find just that they're a little awkward and they're having a hard time connecting with the women, because I guarantee you so many of them are looking for something deeper.
The juice is worth the squeeze, and go for it. Grow some balls and go for it. She might reject you, but it probably might not have anything to do with you. Could be just a timing or a mood or some other thing or distraction. Don't take it so personally. Your yes lives in the land of no, which means outside of your comfort zone, and you have to get out of your comfort zone to really, really sort of find what you want.
Yeah. All right. I knew this was going to be very spirited, and it was. Thank you, Angie, Amy, Taylor. Thanks for joining us. We had a full house today, and we would definitely love to have Brian come back on the show in the future.
Go to greatlovedebate.com.
Yeah. All right. Until next episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to connect or even be on the show, we'd love to hear from you at secretsofasugardaddy.com.